Good morning. I'm Dave Lind. You're Juju.
I'm Alex.
I'm Hannon.
I'm Walter, and this is Betsy.
And I'm Laura.
I'm the daddy.
Please join us in saying, Life is a gift for which we are grateful. We gather in communities to celebrate the glories and the mysteries of this great gift.
This is the opening of Eyes by David Whyte. That day I saw beneath dark clouds the passing of light over the water, and I heard the voice of the world speak out. I knew then, as I had before, life is no passing memory of what has been, nor the remaining pages in a great book waiting to be read. It is the opening of eyes long closed. It is the vision of far-off things seen for the silence they hold. It is the heart, after years of secret conversing, speaking out loud in the clear air. It is Moses in the desert, fallen to his knees before the lit bush. It is the man throwing away his shoes as if to enter heaven, and finding himself astonished, opened at last, fallen in love with solid ground. Welcome to Worship with First Church. We are so glad you are here with us. I'm so glad to have with us today two wonderful members of the church who are also activists and are helping mobilize us for the humanity and worth and dignity of all. In this moment, there is so much that we can do. So many ways that we can serve and help and heal what is broken in this world. So many ways to open our eyes, to see clearly this moment in which we are living. Like so many of you, I have been taking in all the news and the images of Minneapolis burning, of gatherings across the nation. And I feel now more than ever the importance of this thing we are creating together. A community grounded in love and working for justice. And while an imperfect and crucial national conversation moves forward, I ask myself, where is my place in this? I ask myself in this time of virus and distancing, in this already trying and complex time, where and how can I help this new world be born? A world of compassion and peace, a world of connection and care. And this service is part of the answer. All that is stirring within you is part of the answer. Welcome. Let us worship together.
We'll build a land where we bind up the broken. We'll build a land where the captives go free, where the oil of gladness dissolves all mourning. Oh, we'll build a promised land that can be. Come, build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. We'll build a land where we bring the good tidings to all the afflicted and all those who mourn, and who give them garlands instead of ashes. Oh, we'll build a land where peace is ruined cities, raising up devastations from old, restoring ruins of generations. Oh, we'll build a land of people so bold. Come build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. Come build a land where the mantles of praises resound from spirits once faint and once weak, where like oaks of righteousness stand the people. Oh, come build the land, my people we seek. Come build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream.
So long as I do not firmly and irrevocably possess the right to vote, I do not possess myself. I cannot make up my mind. It is made up for me. I cannot live as a democratic citizen, observing the laws I have helped to enact. I can only submit to the edict of others. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in his 1957 Give Me the Ballot speech. Thank you, Reverend Jablonski and Priscilla Cobb, for connecting our UU principles with the right to vote. The 100th anniversary of women getting the right to vote and the 150th anniversary of the 15th Amendment is an apt time for this conversation. My name is Catherine Bonfilio, and I am a member of the UU The Vote group here at First Church. I am also president of Belmont Against Racism, which is joining its voting rights work with that of First Church. For those of you not familiar with Belmont Against Racism, or BAR, as we are known, we're an all-volunteer nonprofit that was started in 1992 by members of this church, including Mike Collins, Bev Freeman, Doug Reynolds, and Kathy Miller. Its main focus has been on racial justice issues here in Belmont, as well as the greater Boston area. We are not experts on voting rights, but are learning from African American leaders such as Cheryl Crawford from Mass Vote, Andrea Miller of Reclaim Our Vote and the Center for Common Ground, and from reading Carol Anderson's book, One Person, No Vote, which examines the many ways that voting is suppressed in this country. We have learned about voter ID laws, the shutting down or moving of polls in communities of color, the purging of voters from registration rolls, the requirement of exact voter name match that particularly targets Latinx voters, the failure to deliver absentee ballots or to count them if received, including from students, and denying ex-felons the right to vote, and more. All of this added to the long history of gerrymandering of districts. Earlier this year, BAR co-sponsored with Belmont Books a program on voter suppression, including a screening of the movie Suppressed: The Fight to Vote, which recounts the disenfranchisement of the 2018 Georgia election. The poster for this film states, quote, "If your vote didn't matter, they wouldn't be trying to stop it." I encourage you to watch this online. We became familiar with many of the organizations doing voter rights work. There is some good news in that some states have made it easier to vote. In the last 3 years, 15 states, including Massachusetts, moved to automatically register voters when they visit the motor vehicle agencies. Some states, but not Massachusetts, have same-day registration. And there are many community-based and national organizations that are working towards increased voter participation. BAR and UU the Vote have chosen to work with Reclaim Our Vote, a nonpartisan effort using many platforms and collaborating with organizations such as Black Voters Matter, the NAACP, Mi Familia Vota, Progressive Coders Network, Vote Writers, and the Transformative Justice Coalition. ROV is targeting mostly southern states, which would include Alabama, Arizona, Georgia, Mississippi, North Carolina, Texas, states with a history of voter suppression and where disenfranchisement has escalated since the 2013 Supreme Court decision of Shelby County versus Holder, which gutted key provisions of the 1965 Voting Rights Act. According to Reclaim Our Vote, over the past few decades, voter suppression and voter list purging has stealthily disenfranchised millions of voters. For those of us old enough to remember the height of the civil rights movement, where people were being jailed and dying for the right to vote, it seemed a sad injustice that the work of so many was being systematically undone. We signed on for a few of the virtual trainers with Andrea Miller of Reclaim Our Vote and came away extremely impressed with the organization's knowledge, tactics, and depth. In addition to phone banks and postcards, they plan to use texting, especially with younger voters. ROV also gathers data to analyze the impact of their work. Reclaim Our Vote has found 25% increase in voter registration among recipients of their postcards. This current pandemic has shed a glaring light on the effects of racism, poverty, and the lack of access to quality health care, food, and clean air. We have seen an outpouring of good works to assist people in this difficult time. We know that health, food security, and housing are of the highest priority currently. But we know that our democracy is in danger, and communities need to have a say, and who will govern, especially as this pandemic continues with its devastating effect on our nation. Writing postcards is a small task with a potentially large impact that volunteers can do while sheltering in their homes. The postcards we send are to individuals who may have had their names removed from voter registration rolls, encouraging them to check their registration status, re-register, and vote. Members of UU the Vote and BAR have contributed to the 1,300,000 postcards that Reclaim Our Vote has made just this year. If you would like to join this effort, you can find information on the Unitarian. You will be supplied with postcards, stamps, addresses, and the text to be handwritten on the postcards. There are lovely signs around town that say simply hope. But hope often needs a nudge. So, one by one, we will write postcards or make phone calls and hope our democracy can bend a little bit more towards justice.
We're all traveling in the footsteps of those who've gone before. We'll all be reunited on a new and sunlit shore. That's when the saints go marching in. When the saints go marching in, I wanna be in that number. When the saints go marching in. And when the sun begins to shine, when the sun begins to shine, Some say this world of trouble is the only world we need. Me, I'm just waiting for that morning when a new world is revealed. And when that revelation comes, when the revelation comes, I wanna be there on that morning when the saints go marching in. I just wanna be there on that morning when the saints go marching in. Oh, when the saints go marching in. Oh, when the saints go marching in. I wanna be in that number when the saints go marching. When the saints go marching. When the saints go marching in.
The right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude. The Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. 15th Amendment, ratified 150 years ago in 1870. My name is Priscilla Cobb, and I'm a member of First Church Belmont and the Social Action Committee and its recently formed UU the Vote group. I'm also an attorney, and before I retired in November, my area of practice was federal appellate and constitutional law. But one does not need to be an attorney to be alarmed by the direction taken by recent voting rights decisions of the Supreme Court that threaten to undo the progress made in the 55 years since the Voting Rights Act was passed to enforce the 15th Amendment. The passage of the Voting Rights Act of 1965 was due in large part to the efforts of civil rights activists led by Martin Luther King, who called on participants in his march from Selma to Montgomery, Alabama, to march on ballot boxes until race baiters disappear from the political arena. Unfortunately, we are not there yet. As Justice Ginsburg has said, the Voting Rights Act addresses the combination of race discrimination and the right to vote, which is preservative of all rights. In a 2013 decision, Shelby v. Holder, the Supreme Court effectively gutted Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act, which had required federal pre-clearance for all changes to voting laws in regions of the country with the most aggravated records of rank discrimination against minority voting rights. Since that decision, more than 1,600 polling places have been closed across the country. Following the 2008 election, the most racially diverse in the history of our country, some states enacted laws that created barriers to registration and voting access. For example, by restricting the types of identification required to vote, eliminating early voting and same-day registration, and purging voter registration rolls using faulty criteria. The current pandemic and uncertainty about how voting will be conducted in November create the risk of additional barriers. In response to increased threats to electoral justice, the Unitarian Universalist Association launched its UU the Vote campaign in January. It provides guidance to individual congregations on how we can educate ourselves about electoral justice, preach on these issues, volunteer, and partner with voting rights organizations locally and nationally. Like UU congregations all over the country, First Church was inspired to form its own UU the Vote group as part of its Social Action Committee. And in collaboration with Belmont Against Racism, we have chosen to partner with the Center for Common Ground's nonpartisan Reclaim Our Vote campaign to reach out to voters. Reclaim Our Vote is working to combat the racially discriminatory effect of new and continuing barriers to voting. Its voter outreach campaign is focused on states with a history of voter suppression, and it aims to re-register voters of color in particular who have been purged from the voter rolls. Participating in its postcarding effort is one way that we can work to help realize the promise of the 15th Amendment. If you would like to join the UU the Vote group here at First Church, please email socialaction@uubelmont.org. We meet via Zoom monthly. Our next meeting is Tuesday, June 9th. Voting matters, maybe now more than ever. So much is at stake. Together, we can make a difference in the 2020 election. Thank you.
We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we'll walk hand in hand someday. We shall all be free. We shall all be free. We shall all be free someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall all be free someday. We shall live in peace. We shall live in peace. We shall live in peace someday. Oh, deep in my heart,
Thank you so much to Priscilla and to Catherine. Thank you so much to you all for worshiping with us today. By way of a benediction, I wanted to share with you all this, one of my favorite flowers. It's a scabiosa that we have on our front porch. And I think my favorite part about it is if you look closely, the flower, the blossom, is made up of so many smaller blossoms, so many tiny little flowers all clustered up together. And we, together, are just like that. So when we join in common purpose, then we are united by our shared vision, working together in projects like this one and in so many other ways. We are so much more. So thank you all. So much love to you all. In this moment especially, I'm so grateful for each and every one of you, for this abundant love holding us all that we create together, this day and always. Amen.